Today, I want to talk to you about something that is very much close to my heart and very much the heart of my profession, and that is the bridge of connection between psychology and religion, or therapy and spirituality. As a Christian therapist, I attempt to mediate connection between people and God. Oftentimes, that gets confused and misinterpreted with individuals who have a religious experience as an attempt to replace God, when in fact it's quite the opposite. My job as a therapist is to connect people to God and to be a conduit to help bring out what is in them so that they can bring their own petitions to God. As a therapist who attempts to operate in an unbiased religious space, I attempt to offer non-judgmental and very and offer a spiritual perspective with the idea that it's my job to respect the spiritual space of other individuals and even their own independent moral disposition with regards to how they choose to operate their lives within their definition of their spiritual or religious space. I do have my own personal convictions that I attempt to offer as a bridge of connection and support and relatability to individuals, but not dictate their own personal narrative. I see it as two spiritual minds coming together to create alignment for the overall goal of helping individuals overcome their emotional, spiritual, and mental health challenges. When you think about the science of you think about even the original terminology of psychology. You could break psychology down into two specific terms: psych, which its root meaning soul or spirit, and logia, which is the study or research of something. So when you look at the definition of psychology, it literally means the study of the human soul. So when I look at psychology from a spiritual perspective and look at the overall historical evolution of psychology, I see a narrative of human beings attempting to study God or study the human soul as it relates to God. And that is a fascinating, when you look at it from that angle, that is a fascinating thing to me. Because we all are in fact trying to study God, irregardless of our spiritual disposition or moral disposition. The wonderful thing about psychology is that it attempts to not only study the human soul, but study the human soul as it relates to our behavior and our thought processes, which inevitably is an attempt to create some form of measurement of identification of the normal dysfunctionalities in our human experience, categorized as disorders in the DSM-5 book, and also to come up with treatment goals or modalities or theories to help individuals overcome those disorders through the works of former and modern therapists, and even philosophers. The science is ever evolving. I don't think it is an exact science. I definitely don't think that that psychology should replace your spirituality or it should be a substitute for spirituality. I like to think that inevitably psychology should explain what God states in the Bible as principles. And we're attempting to bridge the gap of missing modern detail of our personal experience in relation to what God is saying. But psychology as it relates to clinical practice is more than just that. It's more than just the observation of behaviors and thoughts. It's more than just the theories or treatment plan, treatment goals, or modalities associated with how to address those thoughts and emotions. It is also just creating a safe space. It is an additive to the spiritual and religious experience. Whereas in individuals who don't feel that they can talk to anybody, they don't feel like they can talk to their pastor, they don't feel like they can talk to their partner, they don't feel like they can reveal certain things even to their friends, let alone extended community, about some of the hardcore things that are very hard to talk about when you're forced to wear a mask in society and forced to have a reputation in our churches, in our communities, and even in our family systems. My job as a therapist is moreover to create that safe space, to give them room to be able to flesh out their thoughts and really find their own sense of self within therapy without even my influence. I think that is far more the more profound magical moments in therapy, is when an individual can independently navigate themselves through therapy and get to a point where they no longer feel like therapy is needed in order for them to sort of take the next steps in their life. I definitely do not feel like I need to be someone's permanent counselor. My job is to stand in the gap and to be present in individuals' most extreme difficult points of their lives, and to bridge them over into the next chapter of their life. With regards to some things that I think are important to observe in as far as understanding the connection between psychology and religion, are just some of the popular modalities that I think are important, I guess. And so, a couple of things that I think are important are a couple of modalities that I think are important for everybody to know are client-centered therapy, solution-focused therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, Gestalt therapy. One of the concepts that I like to introduce into therapy with clients is a concept that's called mindfulness. And mindfulness for me is the core approach or belief system or philosophy that allows us to create a healthy level of awareness and also a healthy sense of accountability to our emotions as it relates to our environment. When you talk about some of the major disorders out there that I think everybody should have a level of awareness, especially ministers in the church. I think every minister in a church should be aware of PTSD. You should be aware of anxiety disorder. You should be aware of depressive disorders. You should be aware of bipolar disorders. You should be aware of personality disorders. You should be aware of ADD, ADHD, attention deficit disorder. You should be aware of autism spectrum disorder. And you should also be aware of how an individual who displays symptoms related to obsessive compulsive disorder. I think those are like the top, I don't know whether it is 7 or 8 disorders that really are like a baseline of where the majority of individuals sort of lie at, that inevitably end up being the tiny little foxes in the church that end up, spoiling the overall structure of the church. Is just individuals' inability to be aware of pattern-like behavior that a lot of other individuals feel. If you gain anything from me as a therapist, and even in my commentary online, I think the major hack to psychology and even our spirituality is the two terms, patterns and repetition. Understanding our behavioral patterns, understanding our repetitious thought patterns that infect us, and also understanding how to resolve